All right, so what I want to do now, I'm going to get into some offensive grades, and then we'll get into the offensive players of the game. So offensive grades, I'm going to start with the quarterback, Kyle McCord. I was really frustrated with him in this game, like I said early on in the show, but he pulled it together at the end. So obviously that last drive has to like bump his grade up one whole grade. I think I probably would have graded him out like a C, um, but I'm gonna probably go with like a B. I guess a B minus maybe. I don't know. It's tough because I don't want to be too hard on the kid. I feel like he does have the talent, and I feel like as he continues to progress and get better in this offense, he's going to be a really good quarterback. Like I think he's going to be like a top five quarterback in the country by the end of the year as long as he keeps developing. But right now, he's just simply not. And I mean, we're winning despite that. We won a big game despite that. So, and on the last drive, I mean, the dude kind of like dropped his nuts, man. He went up to bat and threw some balls on the money. There was the one ball that should have been an interception that would have ended the game, but you know, bouncing back from that and to still have the confidence to make that throw to a Emeka Egbuka on 3rd and 19, I'm gonna give him a B minus and roll with that. The running backs, I'm going to give the running backs an A in this game. Now I know that it's tough to give the running backs an A when they're the running game was kind of getting stuffed a little bit, and you have plays where it's like 4th down and 1, 3rd down and 1, and we're not able to complete those. But listen, the one that mattered the most, they did. Chip Trainum touchdown. Travion Henderson, I felt like played phenomenal in this game. He wasn't missing cuts. His vision was great. That's one of the things that people love to talk about with him is his vision is not good, and it's I just don't think that that's true this year. I think that the offensive line gets blown up occasionally, and he won't be able to make a cut or something like that. But for the most part, Trey's in the right spot and doing the right thing. I'm giving the running backs an A, and I'm sticking to it. The next one's the offensive line. Again, I felt like they played really good. I already mentioned that before. I felt like they were doing really good in the run game besides just not finishing their blocks. And then the pass protection has been phenomenal all year. So, again, I don't have any complaints about the offensive line. There was a couple penalties in there. The one penalty that was on Josh Fryer, that was bogus, man. There should not have been a penalty called on that. Um, that's what offensive linemen do. You get a guy on the ground, you fall down on him because if not, that guy can just crawl 2 feet to the side and grab your quarterback's ankle. So I mean, what else was he supposed to do? I don't know. I felt like they were just calling something to call it at that moment. It was a big moment in the game too because Ohio State was winning. They were driving the field and they were about to take I think like a 17-0 lead before that penalty stalled the drive. So, hey, if you guys are in here, if you're in the chat or watching, obviously hit the like button and hit me up in the chat. Let me know. Ask any questions. Let me know what you think. Give me your thoughts on the game. I'm interested to hear what you guys got to say. All right, so moving on from that, moving on to the tight end position. Um, I felt like the tight ends played really well. I don't remember G Scott too much, but I think that's a good thing because when he was out there, I feel like if he had blocks to make, he was making them. He didn't really get any catches. But listen, man, I think that it's time. So many people, and I've kind of died on this hill before, and then I seen Kate Stover miss some blocks, and I kind of backed off of this hill. But I'm standing on this hill, and I'm gonna stand on it for good now. Kate Stover's the best tight end on this team. He's not the greatest blocker in space, which when you have a big ass dude like him, you don't expect him to block a defensive back in space. They're going to get around him. They're going to take angles on him that he can't, he's just not going to be quick enough to do it. But K Stover's a really good inline blocker that adds like an extra offensive lineman, obviously, but smaller. And Cade Stover, I don't care. Just because G. Scott was a receiver before, Cade Stover is the best receiving tight end on this team. And I'm not letting anybody tell me different because when Cade Stover runs a route, he gets separation. He catches the ball. Now he has dropped a ball in the past, especially like that Michigan game, but they were throwing him like jump balls and things like that. Okay, that's not his specialty. He's not the tight end that has the long arms that's going to be able to jump over a defensive back and get the ball over him. That's also fine. That if that is not what your tight end is, then don't use him as that. Use him how they're using him now. Let him route somebody up, get separation, and then go break tackles and stiff arm somebody's face into the ground, which is what he did against Notre Dame. I'm done with Cade Stover hate. Listen, if he messes up in the Michigan game, okay, then we can talk about it. because he did last year, but he's been solid throughout, and I just think that he's received a lot of hate. Went from calling him Farmer Gronk to saying that he shouldn't even be playing on this team, and I don't know. I'm not with it. I think K Stover is a solid player, and he continues to show up week after week and be consistent and do what he's supposed to do. All right, I didn't even give the grade on the tight ends. I'm gonna give the tight ends an A. I think they played really well, and we'll leave it at that. Then the last position grade is going to be the receivers for the offense. So I feel like the receivers played really well. When big games come, the Ohio State receivers go from like not great blockers to decent blockers at least. They usually do their thing with blocking when you're playing against a team that's like talent equated. Um, like Marv got hurt throwing a block, which ended up springing Trevion Henderson for the long touchdown. Emeka is usually a solid blocker, and then Julian Fleming. I mean, he might be the best blocking wide receiver in the country, and that's why he plays. People talk a lot of shit about Julian because he's not the best route runner. He's not the most, excuse me, he's not the most dynamic guy there is. But anytime that there's a block that needs to be thrown, Julian's doing it. I seen plays in this game where he was blocking a defensive end, and he did a good job. He got the guy out of the play. So um, I'm gonna give the wide receivers a high grade just from that. I feel like they did a really good job blocking. Emeka was routing people up. There was, they were not really winning those 50-50 balls this week like they do in most games, which is going to happen when you play against better teams. But at the same time, this is the best receiver unit in the country. You need to be able to win those more often. They shouldn't be 50-50 balls. At the very least, they should be like 60-40 with this unit. And they didn't really win those, so I'm going to grade them out as a B. I mean, it's just a high standard for these guys. They play well, but I need to see something special from this group if I'm going to grade them out as an A because they are that special of players, and that's across the board. I don't really like that we didn't really see Carnell Tate at all this week. I don't know. It seemed like they really tightened up the rotation for this game, which we kind of in the past have called for that in big games because we had some people playing in big games last year that shouldn't have been on the field. But I think that Carnell Tate belongs, and I think that he would have added a dynamic to this passing offense that they didn't have with Marv being doubled, sometimes Emeka being doubled. If you had Carnell Tate out there on some pass plays, I think that he would have got off a little bit and could have helped Ohio State open up this offense. All right, so that's it for the offensive grades. Overall, I'm gonna give the offense not a good grade. So, like I actually graded all the units themselves pretty high, but this offense really did frustrate me in this game, and it kind of backs up the point that I've been making talking about this team is that this offense with Kyle McCord at quarterback could lose Ohio State a game. They could lay an egg where they don't score 20 points. That's what I said, which they did this week. Good thing the defense is really good. But they could lay an egg where they don't score 20 points, and ultimately that could lose them the game against a team that is able to score on our defense. So I'm gonna grade the offense out at like a C, and again that's only because potential. When you break it down to each player, it's really because the potential that this team has to score, and they didn't really do that. Hold on one second. Excuse me. But when you break it down to each player, I feel like they pretty much they did pretty good. But when you're grading the offense overall, you have to also factor in play calling. You have to also factor in momentum, timely third down conversions. That's a big one. Looking at the stats, Ohio State this week was 10 of 17 on third downs, which is actually not bad. But then you factor in that they were 1 of 3 on fourth downs. That's 2 possessions right there. I think they only had like 7. So if you're 1 of 3 on fourth downs, there's 2 of your 7 possessions that are not resulting in points. And, that alone has to factor into the offensive grade. So I'm going to grade the offense out overall as a C.